In this lesson, we're just going to perform some operations on functions. It's just so that you can get used to seeing this function notation. So if I'm combining f plus g of x, they're just telling me to take my first function and add my second function. If they tell me to subtract and it's all together inside the parentheses, that means I can take my first function minus my second function. If they're telling me to multiply the two functions together. So they're going to write it like this together, f times g of x. So we can take f of x times g of x. And if they give me a quotient, again, we're just dividing. So for these questions, we're just going to perform some simple operations. So this f minus g of 2 simply tells me to find f of 2 and subtract g of 2. Now it's kind of up to you the way that you do this. Some people like to actually go ahead and find the value for f of 2 and then find the value for g of 2. It's just as easy to take all of f of 2, which means 2 squared minus 2 times 2 plus 4, which is replacing this with 2, any x with 2, and then minus g of 2 would be the square root of 6 minus 2. So now I'm just going to go from here and I'm going to work it out as I go, as opposed to finding each separately. So 2 squared is 4, minus 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 4, and then minus radical 6 minus 2, which is 4. That's a lot of 4's. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce the radical 4 to 2, so I have 4 minus 4 plus 4 minus 2. So now if I take 4 minus 4, it's 0, plus 4 is 4, minus 2 gives me an answer of 2. For my next, g times h of 0 means let's find g of 0, which would be radical 6 minus 0, and then multiply that by h of 0, which would be 1 over 0 minus 3. 6 minus 0 is 6, so that's square root of 6, which is an ugly decimal, so we keep it inside. 0 minus 3 is negative 3, so I'm essentially multiplying it by negative 1/3. So that would just give me negative radical 6 over 3 as the final answer. Last one, g of 3 over h of 3. So on the top of my fraction, I've got radical 6 minus 3. On the bottom of my fraction, I have a fraction, so 1 over 3 minus 3. Now we know when we divide by fractions, we actually multiply by the reciprocal. So this is actually radical 6 minus 3, which is 3, times 3 minus 3 over 1. So it's not undefined because 3 minus 3 is 0, but I'm really just taking radical 3 then times 0 because 0 over 1 is 0. So my answer is 0. So yes, it would be undefined with just this fraction, but because I'm dividing by that fraction, I multiplied by 0 over 1 instead. Here's a couple more. Again, to find g over h of 7, on the top of my fraction, I would find g of 7, so 7 plus 4. On the bottom of my fraction, I would find 7 squared minus 4. So that would give me 11 on the top. 49 minus 4 is 45 on the bottom. No common factors there, so that's all I would do. F times g of x means I would multiply 3 over x, which is f of x, times g of x, which is x plus 4. I would probably go ahead and multiply those out. So 3 over x times x would give me 3, because those x's would cancel. And 3 over x times 4 would give me 12 over x. So that would be my final answer. For the last, these are two for you to try, so try them both, then press play to check your work. G over h of x means I would have g of x on top. I would have h of x on the bottom. There's nothing really that I can do to reduce that. So I can write my domain, however, which I think I forgot to do on the last question. Let's go ahead and do it on this question. This would be my final solution. The domain, I would have to find where this would be equal to 0. So when x squared minus 4 equals 0, remember that's that difference of squares function. And so I know that x can't be 2 or negative 2 is what it cannot be. So the domain would be all of those values except for 2 and negative 2. So negative infinity up to negative 2, union negative 2 up to 2, union 2 on to infinity. So everything except those two values. Last one, looks like I accidentally ended up with a little extra parenthesis there. F times g of x. So looking at f of x, I've got 3 over x. Looking at g of x, I've got x plus 4, so we really just talked about this one. The solution would be 3 plus 12 over x. The domain would be that x cannot be 0 because we can't let this be 0 over here. So it would be from negative infinity up to 0, and then union 0 up to positive infinity.